Should you be buying Call of Duty Black Ops 6 to play zombies this year? Is it worth getting? Should you even invest your time and energy into this game mode? Well, that's what we're going to try to answer today. The online discourse around BO6 Zombies has been so divisive over the past week, I would say, and it's gone from, let's go lads, we are so back, to it's zombies is literally over. Like, it's done. It's just so funny to see the reception of a trailer that was one of the hypest zombie trailers of all time to get such a mediocre reception of the actual map, and on the other side of that coin, another map that got received very well for its gameplay, the trailer doesn't even have a single zombie in it. So what's going on here? Is Black Ops 6 Zombies good? Do the maps suck? Are they bad? Is Black Ops 6 even worth buying for zombies? Is anyone even watching this video? Anyways, so in all seriousness, with Black Ops 6 on the horizon and so many people trying to determine if zombies this year is going to be a good fit for them, I feel like I wanted to impart a lot of what my experience with this game is, because at this point I have gotten hands-on and pretty extensive hands-on with both Terminus and Liberty Falls. These are the two zombies maps that will be present on launch, and they are both very different, and that aspect alone of these two being very different from a stylistic perspective, from a gameplay standpoint, and many other angles, Terminus and Liberty Falls are very contrasted to one another, and I think that's intentional. So that's been a little bit of a heated debate. We'll get to that a bit later, but I want to start talking about, first of all, what is Black Ops 6 Zombies, just from a big picture. If you're trying to absorb what this game is going to be about, this is essentially a sequel to Cold War Zombies, and what I mean by that is many of the mechanics and gameplay systems that were introduced in Cold War specifically have either been refined, they've been tuned, or they've been advanced in some way, and that was not an accident either. Cold War was setting the foundation for where they wanted to take zombies, so it should be no surprise that Black Ops 6, in more ways than one, is a sequel to Cold War. However, it seems they've taken a lot of the criticisms of Cold War Zombies to heart and have tried to rectify them to some extent, and we're going to talk about a lot of those details later, but there will be two maps on launch. We know this, right? Terminus and Liberty Falls, and once again, these are very different. Terminus is self-described by Treyarch as being the much harder, more complicated, difficult map with tons of depth. They even told us at Treyarch that this map is going to have just as many, if not more, side Easter eggs than Shadows of Evil, which is one of the most densely packed Easter egg maps of all time. I think a lot of us know that. I don't know what the count is for Liberty Falls or really where that, takes place, but essentially what I see them doing with these two maps is Terminus is their very depthful, complicated map, their deep experience, and Liberty Falls is the map that you just jump on, load up zombies, and kill stuff. There's not really a whole lot going on, not too complicated of a setup. If you just want to jump on for a few minutes and shoot zombies, then this is the map for you. This is exactly like how Black Ops 3 had it with Shadows of Evil and the Giant. Shadows of Evil was a very different and complex map for the time that certainly pushed us out of our comfort zone, whereas the Giant was the comfortable, casual counterbalance. I felt like this split and separation was one of the keys to success that Black Ops 3 had. I mean, on top of just having fantastic, well-made, amazing maps, obviously, but this casual counterbalance with the more complicated, depthful experience, I feel like really, served a broad base because there was something for everyone, and there was different flavors of zombies, which is very important, and that's the thing, is Liberty Falls is a very different flavor to Terminus. Now, Terminus was the first map that we ever played at Treyarch. It was our absolute first impressions of the game, and the thing is, they told us from the very get-go that their goal with Black Ops 6 Zombies is to make the mode as accessible as possible. Now, I'm not saying this is a good or bad thing. I'm not making a judgment call on whether or not they should be doing this for the mode, because I think there's positives and negatives to both aspects. I'm just letting you know that their main goal with BO6 Zombies was to make this a very accessible game mode, because even with Easter eggs, they were telling us in Black Ops Cold War, which, many zombie fans consider to be one of the easier games as far as Easter eggs and main quests go, Treyarch said that they want to ideally increase the completion rate of Easter eggs as much as possible. In older zombie games, say Black Ops 2, 3, and 4, the completion rates for Easter eggs were genuinely like single digits. Maybe 2 to 8% max of players of the game were completing a map's main quest. Now, to some extent, I think an argument can be made that that's kind of the appeal of an Easter egg. It's the fact that not everybody knows about it or can even do it, and it's kind of like this thing that makes the mode special if you know about it. It's the survival game mode on top of, if you have enough knowledge and you're interested enough, that you know that there's this hidden layer of something really cool underneath. I mean, that is by definition what an Easter egg is. And again, traditionally in Zombies, an Easter egg completion, it was almost like a badge. It was something to hold and be proud of. You know, if you know a map's Easter egg, you've done it before. It's kind of like this badge of honor that you know something a little more than the average player about the map. Now, that's not really the case anymore, right? They have their main quest, but it's not really an Easter egg. It's more or less like the path that they want you to take, and it's a very different approach to what zombie Easter eggs have been traditionally speaking. Now, the thing is, I remember making a criticism in my Cold War review where I suggested that maybe the way that Zombies needs to go is, you know, per given Zombies map, you have a main quest and then you have a proper Easter egg, right? The main quest allows them to tell their story, hit the proper beats that they want to convey to the player, bring them into this world, storytelling, etc. And the Easter egg is this other hidden layer that is more of a traditional Zombies Easter egg. It's this thing that not everybody's going to know about and do. It's very hidden, it's secretive, but it's kind of like a badge of honor if you know about it and you know how to do it. It's something that kind of makes the mode feel special and gives it a lot of that personality, makes you feel attached to it. I don't think the main quests are necessarily the best way to get players invested in the mode. I'm not entirely convinced of that. And I've been thinking about this a lot ever since I played Black Ops 6 Zombies because it's such a core part of what they're doing with this year's direction of Zombies. They want to make the mode as accessible as possible, for better or for worse, and they want as many players as possible completing the main quest. And it seems like, in a way, this has a good angle because it's almost like they met me halfway. The suggestion that I made about the splitting of the main quest and proper Easter egg is kind of what they're doing. Zombies map is going to launch, and in this case, Terminus and Liberty Falls will be there when Black Ops 6 comes out, and these maps will both have their respective main quests. There will be no hints on how to complete this. It's going to be a proper Easter egg hunt for the Zombies community to enjoy. And then after a couple of weeks, both maps are going to get something called directed mode. This used to be called guided mode, but they've changed the wording on it a little bit. And directed mode, for every single player, if you choose to play in that particular playlist, will literally just walk you through the main quest. It'll give you objective markers. It'll cap the round until you complete a certain step. You know, it'll walk you through the entire process of doing that map's quest. Now, there are different rewards, obviously, for doing the Easter egg without directed mode and stuff like that. So I can tell they're still trying to make both the hunt and playing the Easter egg in its respective standard mode still valuable to do, but in a way, I do feel like the directed mode almost devalues Easter eggs to some degree, because literally, if, you know, the completion rate of Easter eggs is going to be like 70%, then they aren't really special anymore. In a way, you can kind of see what I mean, where completing some of the hardest main quests in Zombies really does feel like an achievement, and I feel like this main quest system is a double-edged sword, because yes, it's going to get more players into the game, it's going to raise the accessibility, and everybody's going to be able to enjoy it, but it also devalues the achievement and what it means to complete a Zombies Easter egg in a way. And I don't think this is the same thing as gatekeeping. It's not like I don't want people completing main Easter eggs and enjoying Zombies to the fullest capacity. I think that's awesome, but it got me thinking about the concept of value of achievements in video games, and this might sound silly, but hear me out for a second. Why are platinum achievements in video games even commendable or something that people care about? It's because, well, not everybody can do it, whether because they're not going to put in the time to get it, or because maybe it takes a lot of skill. You know, one of those two components, maybe both, sometimes is a factor. Platinum trophies on games are a real testament of dedication to a game, and in some ways, that's what Zombies Easter eggs were, and Black Ops 6 seems to be maybe doing away with that a little bit with these guided modes and stuff like that. Now, they have said that the actual quests themselves are much harder than Cold War's Easter eggs. Now, I don't really know what that means in practical terms. Like, is the gameplay going to be harder? Are the steps going to be more arbitrary? I'm not really sure, but they've said that the Easter eggs will be harder than they were in Cold War to complete, which is an interesting idea, and obviously playing it in the directed mode, it's going to walk you through, it's going to kind of cap the difficulty as well, because you won't be able to pass the maximum amount of rounds until you complete certain steps. But playing it in standard mode, obviously, you know, it kind of takes the guardrails off a little bit, but I still think that there's a bit of a discussion to be had about this double-edged sword. I think it's great for the accessibility's sake that many more players are going to be doing main quests, experiencing the story of Zombies, and really getting into what the mode has to offer. But on the other hand, I do think there is a little bit of lost value in now making main quests something that's just everybody's going to be able to do. You know what I mean? Like, they're not really achievements to wear as a badge of honor anymore. They're kind of just like a checklist thing that, yeah, you can go in and experience the story and you've done the main quest, cool. And there will be different rewards whether you do it in directed mode or not, but it's not really the point. And I think you get what I'm saying. Treyarch have said that the maps are going to be loaded with side Easter eggs, and the directed mode that will walk you through the main quest completely disables any side Easter eggs in the map, meaning all of those other potentially depthful Easter eggs that the map contains will not be able to just be walked through and just be done using this directed mode system, which is a benefit, and I think that's a very good thing. Still leaving some depth to the mode, I feel like is necessary if you're going to take main quests and kind of sort of, I don't know, casualize them. I don't think that's the right word, but either way, it's not really the point. I think you get what I'm trying to say, but enough about Easter eggs for now. I want to talk about just the core gameplay of Black Ops 6 Zombies, because this is a fundamentally important aspect. Just the bread and butter gameplay's got to be fun, man. I mean, I feel like older zombie games of the past have really fallen flat for me because, you know, all of this Easter egg stuff and whether the main quests are hard or not is totally irrelevant if the actual moment-to-moment gameplay is no fun. This was my biggest problem with Black Ops 4. Of all of the cool things in that game and potentially really awesome maps and gameplay sequences and Easter eggs and everything, I just really didn't like the core gameplay of Black Ops 4 hardly at all. And the core gameplay of Black Ops 6 is the foundation of everything that you're going to do. So is that fun, or is that even good? Coming from the perspective of someone who found Cold War Zombies gameplay loop to be very fun and refreshing as a response to what Black Ops 4's gameplay was, then I absolutely loved it. I thought Cold War's gameplay was a phenomenal, fantastic foundation and base, and it really feels like in Black Ops 6 they've taken a lot of those ideas and further implemented on them, but maintaining the heart of what the core gameplay is all about in Cold War. Now, I understand that's not everybody's cup of tea. Not every single person on Earth loved Cold War Zombies, just moment-to-moment gameplay. I will say I feel like it just feels a lot more satisfying and better to shoot and kill zombies in Cold War than it does in like Black Ops 4. And pretty much everything else, as far as the weapon rarities, the pack-a-punch tiers, the alternate ammo types, the point system even, the way that perks work, they're all very similar to Cold War with a couple of adjustments. Like, for example, there's a new Shadow Rift ammo mod that's basically just a different alternate ammo type, and now instead of getting them at the pack-a-punch machine, you get them from the arsenal, you know, stuff like that. Or armor wall buys are no longer in the arsenal itself, but they are attached to the wall. They are wall buys now. So that's a little bit of a difference in Cold War's gameplay, but they're rearranging elements and ingredients that were kind of already in the pot. Now, that's fine as far as I'm concerned, because again, I really liked Cold War's gameplay. What I criticized was the lack of personality in the maps. It was a lot of the lack of depth, and every map feeling identical and very samey. They all had more or less the same sandbox, and to some extent they've tried to alleviate that, right? There's different enemy types that only appear in Terminus, or stuff that's only in Liberty Falls, and not to mention, I mean, the maps themselves are very different. Cold War basically had like bad guy military base number 1 through 18,000, right? But they were all sort of that concept. This is you have maybe a military base, which is Terminus, but it's on an island, so it's a little bit different. But then you have Liberty Falls, which is just like a random town in West Virginia. It's not exactly a bad guy military base, and those two maps feeling very different, I think is actually a positive for this game. Also, a direct criticism I had of Cold War was that I felt like they had room to have a canon crew on a zombies map, but the ability to play as operators. I thought that was fantastic, and they literally did that in Black Ops 6. Terminus has a set crew, but you can choose to play as operators, whereas Liberty Falls only has operators. So it seems to be a map-by-map basis, which I actually think is fine, but they've given us a canon crew again that, you know, will have interactions and dialogue and story together. Maybe not so much on Liberty Falls. Again, that's the casual counterbalance map, it looks like, but there is some like thought to that going on here. Zombie progression has been looked at, and a lot of systems from Black Ops 3 actually make a return in BO6. You know, obviously everybody knows that Gobblegum are now back in the game, albeit they've been a little bit reworked, but they still have sort of the same like rarity system. You just outright earn these by playing the game now, simply by surviving rounds, and there's only 3 different types now, right? There's activation based, there's time based Gobblegums, and then there's conditional ones. Those are the only 3 types now. No round based Gobblegums or anything like that, but basically they took a lot of these fan favorite features from Black Ops 3 and are trying to give them maybe that rule breaker aspect, and also give some semblance of sandbox gameplay to really switch up, you know, how a map could be experienced. Because Cold War, more or less, all of the maps maps play almost the same because you have the same weapon sandbox, almost same enemy sandbox. Craftables are genuinely identical map to map, and hopefully there are some different unique ones that get added throughout the season, but I mean, obviously that's TBD. But that Gobblegum goes so far into making a map feel different, you know, playthrough to playthrough. And that's something that Kevin Drew and the rest of Treyarch have been talking about a lot. There's going to be a lot of Gobblegum added post-launch, some new things to help switch up the meta as maps go on. And that will even give us reason to go back and replay old maps to experience them with new Gobblegum and new content. The way that the perk system works is also a little bit of an idea that they had in Cold War with the Ethereum crystals, where you go through this upgrade tree and you can like upgrade your weapon types, your perks to have like, you know, different benefits and stuff. But basically this has been changed to where now you unlock these things called augments, and you are able to be afforded one major and one minor augment for your perks and your field upgrades. And these are just small changes to maybe the stats or maybe an extra little mechanic to a certain perk. These are the things that are supposed to help you, in theory, do build crafting in zombies. And maybe there's a little bit of an emphasis on it this year, but I don't know how much of a role it's really going to play. I think these are going to be relatively minor in the overall meta of what zombies is, which I'm perfectly okay with. The thing with like out of game progression, I'm not a big fan of it. I'm gonna be honest, in zombies, I kind of hate the idea of like going in the game to do a thing and then upgrading something out of game, then to use it again in game. That's just never really been my favorite. I love, the thing I really enjoy about the charm of classic zombies is everybody loaded in the exact same. You start in, you just got a pistol, but the way that really determines how your game goes is how intelligently you utilize the tools that the game gives you match to match. You're not more powerful because you did something out of game and, you know, changed and upgraded all the stuff in the menu that now makes you a better player. I love the idea of everybody's kind of on the same playing field, but it's how you utilize the tools in game that really determine your experience match to match. Now, one of the things I was talking to with T-Dog, which is my podcast co-host, if you guys haven't checked out our podcast, please go listen to it, link in the description. We're almost at 10K subs over there, by the way, which is super cool, so thank you guys. But anyways, him and I come from very different Call of Duty backgrounds, let's say. Obviously, I've been playing zombies and playing it extremely hardcore as my main thing since World at War. Zombies is kind of my thing in a way, and that's not really the same for T-Dog. Like, he likes zombies, but he's coming from a lot more of a casual perspective, but that's just as valid of a perspective as mine. And the thing that he very much pointed out to me is, like, when we were playing Liberty Falls, for example, he's like, bro, where is this sense of like early game tension? And it's not just about starting with a pistol. There's this whole big debate in the community right now about whether we need to be starting with a pistol again in zombies, like as if that's important. And then people go, bro, you can start with a pistol in zombies, right? Just select it on your loadout. And yes, you literally can do that. But I think both sides are kind of missing one another's point. It's not about the literal fact of starting with a pistol. The actual choice of weapon doesn't matter. It's the fact that you were always, in some sense, on the back foot to the zombies. You always felt slightly more vulnerable than you should, and especially in the early game, you really felt like you were at the disadvantage and you needed to make everything count, and then you would slowly climb your way up through the power ranks and get more powerful things and whatnot. That was where the progression came from. Now, the new Zombies formula does have that gameplay progression. Once again, it's not about starting with a pistol. It's about starting with a weak weapon and then eventually becoming powerful, which Cold War Zombies and Black Ops 6 does have, which I think is a great thing. The weapon rarity system directly affects your damage, and there's different pack-a-punch tiers, so it extends that progression way later into the match, which is amazing. So I feel like the whole starting with a pistol debate is not really about the pistol itself. It's about this tension of early game vulnerability. Zombies doesn't really have that anymore since Cold War. They do have this feature called the Rampage Inducer, which makes all of the zombies go crazy, and they're super fast and aggressive. This can help speed up those early boring rounds. It's optional if you want to do it, and I think that's great for veteran players that understand the game and kind of just want to get into the swing of things. But for newer players, you don't have to engage with this. But to a large degree, I see T-Dog's point where there really isn't this tension in the early game anymore. You feel a lot more like you're on the offensive rather than, oh my god, I'm on the back foot, I need to, you know, be very careful around these zombies and I could die at any moment. That's not really the case here. Okay, so we talked a lot about big picture stuff and what zombies direction is this year, and hopefully that's enlightened you a little bit on whether this game is going to be for you. Just from a more broad scope, it seems like Black Ops 6 is one of the most accessible zombies games, but at the same time, they're very much trying to retain the hardcore element that veteran players are also going to enjoy. I really think the focus on side Easter eggs is what they're doing to cater to the hardcore zombies community. That and the camo grind, like obviously there's a bunch of exclusive mastery camos and zombies, and then all of the side Easter eggs, like there are stuff for the hardcore players, but they're also trying to make it extremely accessible for anybody who's maybe never played zombies before. I think this will be a lot of people's first COD Zombies game, as it is going to be on Game Pass, so I think a lot of people are just going to pick up and play it, and I don't think they'd want a mode that's insanely oppressive and difficult to get into for a bunch of first-time players. I can understand why they're taking this approach. I just think that from the get-go, it does come with a little bit of a trade-off, and I'm interested to see how this whole like main Easter egg system works with directed mode and standard mode and all that stuff. I'm very excited to see how that plays out. But I want to stop talking about big picture stuff for a moment. This is the stuff that I feel like a lot of people want to hear about. I'm just going to talk about maps. I want to give you guys just my honest opinion and my personal feelings on the maps and a lot of the gameplay stuff. One of the things I do unfortunately want to talk about, and I'm not really a big fan of, is actually the HUD. And it's not like the weapon and ammo counters that I have a problem with. Obviously, the HUD in Black Ops 6 is very customizable. You can essentially change the size and position of just about any HUD element in the game, which is awesome, don't get me wrong. But that's not really where my problem is. I mean, all the stuff down here looks just like Cold War. The weapon ammo counter, the field upgrade icons, and so on, those all look fine. I would even say they even look really good. My problem is more so on the left side of the screen with the player names, the armor, even like the downed symbol being just the one from Warzone and not really like, you know, the classic zombies revive symbol or even the ones from Black Ops 3 or 4, just something that's like unique to zombies. I don't really like the Warzone-ification of the HUD, and maybe the minimap is a little weird. Obviously, we had a minimap in Cold War, and I think that's a bit strange for zombies because I also feel like we have things in the map that announce themselves as what they are. Like, do I really need a door icon to tell me that there's a door here when the door just exists? You know, like that. It's just self-evidently that's what it is. Either way, it can be useful in some instances, I think, but I think the minimap situation is largely just I've gotten used to it from Cold War, so I don't really mind it as much, but still, I don't like the Warzone-ification of the HUD in general. You can have the same functions like armor, name, points, etc., but if you can make them even just a little bit different from a stylistic perspective, that would be great. And you remember in Black Ops 3, we had virtually a unique HUD for almost every map. I mean, we had a different style for each one. You know, Shadows of Evil had a very different HUD to the Giant. There would even be different, like, power-up icons. The entire color was different, you know, just to fit the theme of the map a lot better. I'm not saying we need to get a customized HUD for every single zombies map, but that would go a long way. It's really the little things that help a map feel like zombies, and to some degree, Black Ops 6 might be missing a couple of those things as it relates to the HUD. One simple change, for example, if they just made the default health icon look more like how it does when you're in like the Mangler suit, that would be great. I feel like that should just be what the standard health bar looks like, obviously with your player character in the portrait instead, but I don't know if they're ever going to do that, because if their entire goal is accessibility and more specifically onboarding a lot of players from Warzone most likely, then I can see them wanting to maintain this HUD because it's a lot more familiar and comfortable to Warzone players, for better or for worse. I mean, that's just kind of how it is, but personally, I would have loved to see a more unique HUD and system going on here. Now, when it comes to gameplay, I'm just going to be honest, the core gameplay loop of Black Ops 6 is really fun. And I say that hand over my heart. I said the exact same thing about Cold War, that even though it was missing some of the things that I feel like made older zombies charming, I cannot lie and say that the core gameplay loop isn't excellent. Once again, they have nailed it in that department. The core gameplay on both Terminus and Liberty Falls is so incredibly addicting and satisfying, and it's what I love about zombies in a lot of ways. And look, a big part of the gameplay is making sure you're immersed in it, and I know a lot of people wanted to turn off the HUD, they want to turn off the minimap, even the health bars and points. You can do all of that. In Cold War, I think most people ended up just leaving it on. I wouldn't really see anyone play the game without the HUD and health bars, but I'm sure there are some people that would want to do that. You can absolutely do that here. I just think most people are going to choose not to, but if you want to immerse yourself further, you can turn all that stuff off. But the 30-second gameplay loop of killing zombies, training, pack-a-punching, all of that good stuff, all of the bread and butter of what zombies is very much intact, and it's very satisfying here. Some of the best core gameplay, honestly, in a while. And I think that's a good thing insofar as that's going to translate to every single map in Black Ops 6. Weirdly enough, Treyarch already confirmed that we are going to be getting DLC 1. We're going to be getting another map before 2024 even ends, which is huge. Now, that's kind of important because when we talk about maps, there's one that people people aren't so happy about. But first, I want to discuss Terminus. This was the map that we first played, and my impressions of this map, just my overall personal thoughts on this, are that I believe the map is extremely fun and enjoyable. I like the idea that this map is going to be like the spiritual successor to D Machine. I don't think its Easter egg is going to be like crazy complex, but I think it's going to be much harder than that map, and the amount of side Easter eggs, evidently they have confidently said, is more than Shadows of Evil. So I think there's going to be quite a lot to constantly discover and involve yourself in within Terminus. So overall, Terminus is the more difficult map when you consider the whole breadth of the experience, but how is it just in terms of overall moment-to-moment difficulty? Like, is this game hard exactly? And I think I know what people mean by that. This has been the #1 thing that people have asked me to answer about Black Ops 6, and it's a bit of a tricky one to answer because it really depends on your perspective. Now, I'm just going to say this, I do feel like I'm a pretty good zombies player. I think I'm certainly better than the average player. I've played competitive zombies at very high levels, and I do feel like I'm a pretty good temperature gauge at what it means and what makes a zombies game hard or challenging or difficult. And when it comes to Black Ops 6, I do feel like the game was overall a little bit easy, and maybe this will be different for you because your grading scale is much different than mine, but I feel like in the overall grand scope of things, this is one of the easier zombie games. Just straight up the core gameplay, not even talking about Easter eggs or anything like that. Just surviving and killing zombies didn't feel particularly challenging, and even approaching high rounds wasn't anything that I would describe as extreme pressure. The thing is, though, they have done a couple of things to make high rounds and make the gameplay more challenging, like they've limited self-revives and stuff like that, which I think is extremely positive, but simply the mere concept of shooting zombies and surviving was pretty simple. I didn't feel stretched. My skill as a player didn't feel like taken to the extreme in any way. Also, Omni movement is obviously like the big thing that's making Black Ops 6 different, and my only problem with Omni movement in zombies is you are shooting your weapon so much that you hardly have any time to sprint at all. Like, you can't tack sprint backwards, so there's essentially no reason to use Omni movement almost ever in zombies. There are a couple cases where it can be a little bit useful, but if you could sprint while, shooting, then maybe Omni movement would be pretty useful in zombies. Otherwise, I kind of forget that it's even there, and it doesn't feel like this is this next tool extension that's going to help you get better at zombies. You almost don't even really need it, but I just feel like the gameplay was certainly on the easier end, and I'm not sure really what you do about that without making it, tedious or difficult or artificially hard. Here's a perfect example. When we were at Treyarch playing Terminus, it was me and my boy Codename Pizza, and we had 2 other Warzone players on our team. At some point, Treyarch had us turn on the Rampage Inducer because they figured that was going to end our game and kill us, and the Warzone players on our team were having a hard time. They were struggling, obviously, with super sprinters, but me and Pizza were doing just fine. We were cooling, and we survived multiple rounds with Rampage Inducer on, and the reason that's relevant is because, like, if that's not the thing that, can just fundamentally end your game, if that's basically the hardest way you can play the map, and we were, still just chilling without really breaking a sweat, that might be a little bit of an issue. Now, in some ways, yes, Terminus is still much harder of a map than Liberty Falls is because of enemy types, the navigation, the other, elements that you can encounter in the world. Sure, Terminus is a harder map, but the gap in difficulty between Shadows of Evil and the Giant, for example, is not quite the same as the gap between Terminus and Liberty Falls. That gap is a lot smaller between those two maps because they play so similar. Liberty Falls is a good map. This is what we played at COD Next, and I enjoyed my time very much here. However, the thing is, a lot of people were disappointed because of how easy and small and really no atmosphere this zombies map has. I can kind of understand people's criticisms with this one, but at the same time, I have to disagree for a couple of reasons. I feel like this is the town equivalent to this game. This is literally the map that you just load up and shoot zombies on. People always complain if we don't have a map like that. Look at Black Ops 4. We didn't really have a casual map that you could just load up and shoot zombies in. You'd have, like, the closest thing we had to that was 9 or Classified, and even then, those weren't the easiest maps just to pick up and play. Liberty Falls is, for all intents and purposes, a bonus map. Now, I just don't think it's going to have quite as many, toys and secrets and Easter eggs to discover as Terminus, but it's still going to have its fair share of content. There is a main Easter egg on this map. There's a bunch of side Easter eggs. In fact, at COD Next, I even found one. There's this vault, and there's 3 different slips of paper around the map that you enter into this, locked code, and then you can get in the vault. It's pretty cool, but point is, there's plenty of side Easter eggs on this map. There is going to be a main quest, and from what it looks like in the trailer, there may be more to this map to discover as well, but even if there's not, this map is just meant to be the bonus map, okay? This one is just here to load up and kill zombies. And I can understand why people, were a little bit off put in the beginning, because it's like deceptively simple. You open like 2 or 3 doors and you're already at Pack-a-Punch. That's it. Then you can just go and do your thing. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, and there's more things to discover here. But Liberty Falls being a casual counterbalance to whatever else they're doing map-wise, I think is fine. Because we're getting DLC 1 before 2024 even ends, I mean, if this map is simply a bonus map and it's not affecting what the DLC cycle of this game is going to be, and they're going to continue to support it with post-launch content that are, just as depthful as maps like Terminus, then I think that's completely fine. And when it comes to the argument, and maybe one of the biggest criticisms thrown at Liberty Falls by a lot of people, is that it doesn't feel like a zombies map. Like, it has no aura, according to a lot of people. And the thing is with this argument, I'm not going to get into the semantics of what makes a zombies map feel like zombies, because people could look at Garad Grove and be like, what is this? I miss old zombies. Or look at Revelations and be like, you remember when it was just a bunker and we were just shooting zombies? Like, it's really a non-starter, because what makes a zombies map feel like a zombies map is in some ways entirely subjective. But the point is, with Liberty Falls, I can kind of see where people are coming from on this, and I think a lot of it has to do with the HUD being very, Warzone feeling, but also, weird choices like the barriers and doors being these like laser doors. That's kind of a strange choice, and I'm not really sure why that was made. I don't know why it just isn't regular old debris. That feels a little bit weird to me, and even that's something I took notice of, and I don't know how people felt about that, but it's little things like that around Liberty Falls that it's kind of like, oh, this almost doesn't feel like a zombies map. But in another way, I also kind of like the fact that Liberty Falls looks and feels extremely different to Terminus. Once again, different flavors of zombies is always great, and every flavor is not going to be for every player, but that's why 2 of them are in the game. You might find that you really like the tone and feel of Liberty Falls, whereas you may not enjoy Terminus as much, or vice versa. And that kind of like juxtaposition in the game is what made some of the older zombie games so great, in my opinion. I'm not saying Liberty Falls is the best bonus map we've ever gotten or anything, but what I am saying is I do think it's a benefit that we have 2 very distinct flavors for maps in terms of their atmosphere, vibe, and tone, because in some ways there's going to be something for everybody, and if every single map is a little bit different in a way, that's exactly what we were asking for. Otherwise, we have Cold War again, where every map more or less feels the exact same. As a veteran zombies player, I think I had more fun playing Terminus, because I can see through the depths of what the potential of that map is going to be when it launches. I can kind of just see that hidden layer underneath that there's going to be some really cool stuff here, and with some already extremely solid and fun core gameplay, this is going to make for an awesome experience. Liberty Falls, I did have a lot of fun with, however, obviously it can only go so far. There's only so much depth you can really experience here, because it has such solid core gameplay. It's a very simple map to pick up and play, and if I just want to jump on, shoot zombies, grind camos, whatever it is, Liberty Falls is going to be the one I pick. I was honestly really surprised to see the difference in reception of the community to Terminus, who almost overwhelmingly loved the look and feel of that map, and then when it came to Liberty Falls, genuinely, like, I don't know, 80 to 90% of people seemed to be extremely negative about it. But I think they were using the same judgment parameters as Terminus, but I don't know if that's really, necessarily the thing to do, because this is more or less just a bonus map for this game, and we're going to be getting our second round-based map, or DLC 1, before 2024 even ends, which is pretty unprecedented. And if they keep up that pace of post-launch support, literally, Liberty Falls is exactly what it's supposed to be. It's a bonus map. This is something that didn't even really need to be on the game, but it's just a bonus for us to play and enjoy some casual zombies gameplay. So after playing both zombies maps on Black Ops 6, this is going to be my recommendation. This is what you need to know. I think that if you enjoyed Cold War Zombies at all, you are most certainly going to enjoy this one. I guarantee it. And I'm even going to say this. We'll come back and see if this comment ages well, but I think this game is going to be better than Black Ops Cold War by the end of its life cycle. I think that this is truly going to be a step up from what that game was, with the added inspiration from Black Ops 3 and a lot of these fan favorite features returning that really made other zombies games work. I don't see how that doesn't elevate this to at least be much better than Cold War. However, if you're looking for something vastly different to Cold War, if you just hated that game for some reason, then I'm not entirely sure you're going to like this one either, because they are very similar in terms of their groundwork and how their gameplay works and everything, and their maps are going to feel pretty similar to how they did in Cold War when it comes to a function perspective. So I think just depending on what you're looking for, Black Ops 6 is either going to really do it for you or maybe not so much. I don't think that maps from here on out are going to be like, they're not going to fundamentally change the game. If you like what the flavor of Liberty Falls is and Terminus, and you like kind of that idea and foundation, then you're probably going to like everything else that the game has to offer. The core gameplay is a lot of fun, in my personal opinion. I think Black Ops 6 Zombies has tons of potential, especially in the season of post-launch content, but for some reason, if this style of zombies isn't for you, then I don't really think it's going to change much throughout the season. I think if you enjoy what we've got, they're going to double down on it, and we're going to get a lot more depthful experiences as the year goes on. But I wanted to make a video summing up everything that I feel about Black Ops 6. I've played both zombies maps at this point, and I wanted to give you guys a bit of my experience and my recommendations. If there's any questions you guys have in the comments, please let me know, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. But make sure to subscribe. There will be plenty of zombies content coming your way when Black Ops 6 comes out. But I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out, guys.